Hi everyone, Pavi G reporting in after what I called was, for me, Novak Djokovic most special and emotional and important victory in his career yesterday when he beat Yannick Sinner for the first time in 5 matches. If you remember, Yannick Sinner had beaten Djokovic in the last 5 appearances. In the last 2 matches, Djokovic didn't even get a set against him, and Djokovic won in a 4 hour plus thriller, which had even people that don't like Djokovic staring up in astonishment and excitement. It was one of the most special days in the whole of tennis, and with regards to whatever's gone on in the last 2 years, it made it so important, emotional. I had a tear in my eye after he won, and we all saw Charlie Gomez, who obviously has been Djokovic's right hand man really for a number of years. He really knew what Djokovic has been through in the off season to really get in shape to be able to beat the likes of Yannick Sinner, which he really wanted to do. He really wanted to do. So, I'm gonna do a quick video just kind of detailing what happened yesterday in the match, and looking ahead to the final now against Carlos Alcaraz. But let's start with the match. We'll start with the pre-match. So some of you who follow me will have seen that Bet Wright, who I've been doing some Mystic Path boost, put Djokovic up at 11-1 to beat Yannick Sinner. I couldn't believe it. 11-1. I put out a video and I was like, I think Djokovic has actually got a really good chance to win here. And I outlined all the reasons why I felt Djokovic had a reason to beat Yannick Sinner. A lot of the haters were telling me I was completely off my mind and was putting my heart ahead of my head. But I really just had a feeling that Djokovic could spring the shock yesterday. He's had this glint in his eyes since he's landed in Australia. And I know that glint. And anyone who knows Novak Djokovic, when he's got that little glint in his eye, that little bit of steel, whoever he comes against, they're going to feel that. They're going to feel that. And let's start with the match. So Yannick Sinner started the match so well. It feels like so long ago now, but he raced to a 3-0 lead. He had a point to go 4-0 ahead. Djokovic at this point was struggling to win points, let alone games. And I think, a lot of the people, a lot of the media and their early reporting were like, yeah, this is exactly what we said was happened. This is exactly why he's 10-1. Someone actually put on my post, he should be 100-1 because he's got absolutely no chance of beating Sinner. And, it was, they were like saying it, we told you so. But I was watching the match, and kind of when Djokovic got into the game, and I mentioned it kind of halfway through the first set, and I was like, Djokovic is getting his timing going here now. I can see him pushing Sinner back a little bit. So I was quite confident. Sinner went on and finished that set 6-3. I believe it finished up 6-3. But Djokovic had showed signs that he was still there. He wasn't going to go away. And he played a really high level second set, and he took that second set. He raced into a 3-1 lead, and he started really pushing Sinner back. And Sinner, to me, looked a bit shocked because he's not seen this Djokovic. He's not seen this Djokovic for many years. In the last 5 matches, Djokovic hasn't been 100% physically or mentally in his matches. But this time he saw a fully consumed Djokovic. Now, Sinner wins the third set. Sinner, in the whole match, is playing at a very high level. So any of those people who say, "Oh, Sinner had a really poor game," he didn't turn up, that's false. Sinner played he played his best game of the Australian Open without a doubt, and the stats will back that up. He was at 75% first serves. He hit 72 winners. He hit a record-breaking 26 aces. He's never hit that many aces in any other Grand Slam match in his career. He was playing well. He wasn't making unforced errors. So anyone who kind of says that he wasn't playing well, he was. And, I was reporting at the time saying that Djokovic is doing really well, But Sinner is not. He's just not breaking. He's playing really, really good. Now, the fourth set was really important because Djokovic got an early break at the start. Now, this is at the point where the match is now 2.5 hours in. And I was kind of posting at the time, because those of you know me, I love my stats. And Jannik Sinner had never won, and still hasn't won, a match over 3 hours and 40 minutes long. Now, I watch tennis very, very closely, and I watch Jannik Sinner very, very closely, and Djokovic very closely. And I've seen in matches that have gone past 3 hours that Jannik Sinner's body seems to break down. Whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's a bit of both, it breaks down. And I was saying that if Djokovic can win this fourth set, that means this match is going to be over 3 hours, and then I think Djokovic has got a really, really good chance. Now, at this point, Djokovic was looking fatigued himself, which, you know, it's not surprising. He's 39, he's 15 years, nearly 15 years older than Jannik Sinner. He's going to feel this. He's going to feel the pressure. And this is where the crowd came into play. So at the time, I was saying that the crowd is phenomenal, but they need to give them more. They need to kind of give more. And I was just so emotional with some of the Noel fans that I know, that I'm friends with, that I've met, that were at there, and they were shouting at every single point. They were cheering Djokovic. And I was like thinking, this is exactly what Djokovic needs. And it seemed to kind of motivate all of the crowd. In the fourth set, everyone in Rod Laver was shouting, no lay, no lay, no lay. And I'm just like, this is Melbourne. You know, we've already had this false narrative from the establishment that he's only loved in Serbia. You know, he doesn't really, you know, people don't really like him. Obviously, in Australia, 2022, everyone thought he was the villain. And now, 4 years on, against the alleged most popular player on the tour, he's won the last 2 years ATP most favourite player of the year for the fans. And everyone was shouting Nole. And I looked at Sinner's body language, and I looked at Djokovic's body language. Now, you've got to remember, at this stage, Djokovic was tired. And he looked around, he soaked it in, and it gave him that adrenaline. And it just gave him that adrenaline. And you ask anyone who plays sports at any level, whether they be amateur, whether they be professional at the highest level, adrenaline is probably the best natural drug that can give you so much strength when you need it the most. And he got that. So, you know, to this day, I'm saying that the crowd was a massive, massive influence in this match. Now, Djokovic faced so many break points. Now, the stats for this, Sinner was 2 out of 18 on break points. He converted 2 break points from 18 opportunities. You know, he was knocking on that door in the fourth set, but Djokovic just kept on holding on. He was so clutch on the big points. He just wouldn't miss. And Sinner got passive. He got tight. I've never seen Jannik Sinner get so passive and tight on the big points. He was waiting for Djokovic to make a mistake. And if you've watched Djokovic, you know on the key points, you can't be passive. You've got to go for it. And Sinner failed to do that. And Djokovic closed out set 4, and it was at that point going into the fifth set that I thought, I think Djokovic has got him here. I think he's got him, because the match is now over 3 hours, 3 hours, 20 minutes, I think it was, at the end of the fourth set. And I thought the crowd is going. Djokovic is fully engaged. He's fired. His forehand was scintillating. He was pushing Sinner back. But Sinner started the fifth set knocking on the door. He was getting break points on every Djokovic serve. And you just think, oh, you know, how long can you keep fending off these break points? It was almost like a boxing match where Sinner was just knocking on that door. He wasn't relenting in his level, a very, very high level. But Djokovic fought and fought. He saves 8 break points in that fifth set. And then what happens? It's 3-all. Sinner coasting at 40-15 on his serve. All of a sudden, Djokovic pulls out a couple of incredible shots, gets the deuce. You look at Sinner's body language. He looks tight. He's just had multiple breakpoint opportunities. He couldn't convert. Djokovic gets his breakpoint. He smells blood. He goes and breaks. He breaks. Just unbelievable. He absolutely breaks. So he's now 4-3 up. What happens in the next game? You just think, Djokovic, nice and easy. Just kind of take control now. He goes love 40 down. So I'm like, oh my God, he's just got this vital break. And you think Sinner's going to get it straight back. But Djokovic saves all of them. And the crowd are going absolutely nuts. And Sinner, if you remember what he said in the French Open, it was very, very similar. He was in control against Carlos Alcaraz. And all of the Roland Garros fans started cheering for Alcaraz. And Sinner said that it impacted him. And I think the same thing happened here. And then serving out, this was for me was Wimbledon 2019. I've never been this stressed in a match watching Djokovic and since that Wimbledon final against Federer, because there were so many reasons why Djokovic needed to win that match. Similar to Sinner yesterday, there were so many reasons why Djokovic needed to win that match. Djokovic is at 40-15, so I'm thinking, okay, it's a regulation service game. But Sinner doesn't give up. Sinner now it's not showing any signs of cramping or anything. He seems to have upped the level. And now he's going for it, because the pressure is off. He brings it back to deuce with like an amazing shot. And I thought, okay, Djokovic now could get broken in. We're back to, square one. But he found something inside again. And he goes out and claims the most famous victory. It brought me to tears. Obviously, people know that I've been very, very upset with the whole Sinner situation, how he's even allowed to play after failing 2 drug tests. That, I believe it was preferential treatment. Djokovic has called it out. So many other players have called out the unfairness of what was happening. It was really, really important. And then we've got this narrative that Sinner's unbeaten. Everyone's saying that Djokovic can't even get a set off him, let alone beat him. And for him to win and just turn the tables around meant so much, because Djokovic has worked so hard. I remember in the off season, people were saying, well, we're not really heard much from Djokovic. He's not, he reduced his PR and sponsorship requirements that he normally did last year. He was basically away from everywhere, away from the noise, working hard on his strength, on his fitness, on his conditioning, on his diet, everything, to be in a position where he could beat Jannik Sinner. He could still play at a high level. He can still go deep in the slams. He never made a single final last year in a Grand Slam. He is now in another Grand Slam final with a chance to get to number 25. One of the most amazing emotional scenes, Jelena Djokovic put on. She was in tears. We saw Charlie Gomez in tears. And then I've never seen tennis all unite, all so excited. It was like Djokovic had won the Grand Slam. One between Del Potro is ringing a journalist to give his congratulations to Djokovic at the time he's doing a post-match interview to Latin America. You've got Marion Bartoli then, puts out a post saying that he's not only the greatest player in tennis, he's the greatest athlete in the world. Paul McNamara said it was the best hardcourt match that he had ever seen in his life. Other players from other sports, Kevin Peterson, cricket legend, unbelievable. Ben Stiller, Hollywood celebrity, all behind Djokovic, celebrated, unbelievable. Yuvraj Singh, another Indian cricketer, just said this is unbelievable. Gary Player, golfer, all people from sports, not just tennis. Caroline Garcia from tennis just said this was unbelievable. It was almost like he united all of tennis, because they wanted Djokovic to show that he can still do it, and especially who he beat with Jannik Sinner. People are afraid to call out the unfairness with what's happening with Jannik Sinner, and I get a ton of abuse and toxicity, and I'm this and that, but that just showed you how much that meant. Even Jody Murray, who's clashed with Djokovic in the past, put out a nice message today about Djokovic. This was huge. This was huge. A big win. It was almost like, good over evil. But Djokovic, for himself, he knew that he put that work in, and he always knew in himself that if he was at his best, he can still beat everyone. In the post-match interview, Djokovic was fired up, and he had a go at the people that were saying to him, retire, I was telling everyone last year, Djokovic was so unlucky with injuries and illnesses, but he also spent a lot of time doing other things with PR, family. His mind, I don't think, was 100% on tennis last year, but he still loved it. he still loved the fight. And I think Djokovic turned around and thought, you know what, last year I wasn't at my best. I didn't think I played that well. I didn't think I committed fully, but I still made 4 Grand Slams semi-finals. I'm still top 4 in the world. And I think that's, there's no bigger motivation than that. It's Djokovic is thinking, I know I wasn't at 100% and I'm still top 4 in the world. So that gave him great inspiration. And as I said, for the last 24 hours or however long it's been since his win, Djokovic fans are walking on air. This was just, we've had so much rubbish chucked at us with him to retire. He can't compete. Sinner's amazing. Sinner and Alcaraz are untouchable. There are levels above the rest. No pundit backed, no tennis expert backed Djokovic to beat Sinner. So it just shows how much they know, or what little they know about Novak Djokovic. You can never underestimate Novak Djokovic. He is built different. He is in a completely different league of his own when it comes to tennis. He is, for good reason, the greatest player of all time, and no one will ever get near his levels of greatness. So there we have it. So it's been a really exciting period, and I've said, whatever happens with the game with Alcaraz, nothing can take this away from me. And I said, even when Djokovic was 2-1 down, I said the level that he's playing, I firmly believe that he will get to 25. I don't know if it's going to be tomorrow. If it's not tomorrow, I've always said that I feel that his best chance is always Wimbledon for me, because I just think Wimbledon, the games are overall a lot lesser because the points are shorter, and I think that kind of adds up. Now, my concern for tomorrow is that Djokovic, he didn't get to sleep till 6 a.m. Last night, and so he's pretty much, his body clock is completely messed up. He's played over 4 hours. So Alcaraz was back in his hotel room, relaxing. 6 hours. He's had 6 hours extra recovery time. Djokovic is 15 years older than Alcaraz. He's already put his body, blood, sweat, tears into that match against Jannik Sinner. Now, can he replicate that again against Carlos Alcaraz? It is a really, really tough ask. It is a big, tough ask. So I'm not going to be confident to say that I think Djokovic is going to win. I think it's going to be really, really tough. If we look at it on the face of it, it's almost like how is Djokovic gonna be able to get to the same level that he was against Sinner with less than 48 hours in between matches? He needed an extra day. He's not got that day, and it is what it is. However, I do feel that the stars seem to have aligned for Djokovic this Australian Open. I mentioned before that he's had a little bit of luck this Australian Open, and I'm a firm believer, like Djokovic is, in destiny, and it could just be written in Djokovic's stars that he is going to go on and win this. Now, similar to Sinner, Alcaraz struggles with matches that go 3-4 hours. He was very, very lucky to come through against Zverev yesterday. After 2 sets, he had a really bad cramping. Zverev said for 1.5 hours, Alcaraz was moving at about 50%. And I think Zverev was a little bit frustrated that he wasn't able to get that win done in those 1.5 hours. And he was very, very close to doing so, just a game away from doing so. And then he said Alcaraz got better, and he kind of started his moving just when Zverev was about to win. So Djokovic needs to know that Alcaraz gets tight. We've seen that against Djokovic, Alcaraz, his body kind of after 2-3 hours is going to struggle. So Djokovic needs to be mindful of that. He needs to be attacking. He needs to treat Alcaraz as an enemy. We know that he gets on really well with Alcaraz. They are great friends. Make no mistake about that. I know that for a fact. They get on really well. But Djokovic tomorrow has to pretend he is his enemy just for that match and just get his intensity up, firing up. And all of the Noel fam, all of the Australian fans who are neutrals but are behind Djokovic, you really need to give Djokovic that lift like you did against Sinner. You have to, if you want him to win, you have to cheer and worry about your sore throats and losing voices after that. But you have to go out and cheer him tomorrow as if you've never cheered for anyone before. and then he's got a chance. But it's going to be really, really difficult. My only other concern about tomorrow is I was looking at the weather forecast, and it is forecasted to be one of the windiest days of the Australian Open. Now, anyone who follows Djokovic knows that aside from when it's extreme heat, the other thing that he hates and his game is just not suited to is wind. He hates wind. And I kind of recall back to when Alcaraz beat Djokovic the first time in Wimbledon, and it was such a windy day, and it just kind of put Djokovic off sync. And Alcaraz plays good, a bit like Nadal. Nadal for me was the best player in windy conditions the game has ever seen, and Alcaraz also plays well in windy conditions. So there's a few things that are going against Djokovic here tomorrow, but I'm going to enjoy it. I mean, what he gave us through the whole of this Australian Open has given me much, much more. If he can go on and beat Alcaraz, it will be the greatest ever slam victory in the history of the sport. We've just got to see. Let's go and see. I'm excited for it. It's night match in Australia, so I think it's about 7:30, 8:00 in the UK. But let's go and see. Let's support our man. Let me know. Do you think he's got a chance? Some people are getting a little bit carried away. I'm a bit concerned. Some of the Djokovic fans think because he's beaten Sinner, he's going to steamroll Alcaraz. They need to be mindful that Alcaraz is a very, very, very good player on his own right. He's world #1, so it's not going to be easy. And then there's some element of Djokovic fans who are a little bit more like me, a bit more pragmatic to say, look, he's given everything that he can. It's going to be really, really difficult for him to replicate that so soon after beating Yannick Sinner. But let's see. I mean, that's the beauty of sport. We never really know until it happens. But whatever happens tomorrow, I'm just incredibly proud of Djokovic, all of his team, all of his family, everyone. This means so much. All of his fans. This means so much to all of us. So wishing him all the best. Let's hope for another great match, and may the best man win tomorrow. Right. Hope you guys are all well. Take care. Look after yourselves. God bless, and I'll be back soon. Idamo, Nole! Idamo!